You want to know the cruelest part about being broke? It's not the empty wallet. It's not the overdraft fees. It's not even the embarrassment when you have to say, "Sorry, I can't afford it." The cruelest part is that nobody tells you the game is rigged from the start. Most people wake up, go to work, come home exhausted, and think they're doing the right thing. Save a little here, pay some bills there, maybe dream about that one big break. And yet year after year they're stuck, struggling, waiting for a miracle that never comes. Here's the part that stings. 97% of people will stay broke for life. That's not my opinion, it's the reality you can see just by looking around you. Neighbors, relatives, friends, all running on the same treadmill, thinking hard work alone will buy them freedom. And yet, there's a small group, a tiny 3%, who live in a completely different world. They're not just rich in money, they're rich in time, in options, in freedom. While most are fighting to pay bills, the 3% are making moves, building empires, and playing by rules the rest of us don't even know exist. If you're feeling a little fire inside right now, that's good. Keep it, because in this video, I'm going to show you the exact mental shift, the hidden thinking patterns, and the mindset rewiring that separates the broke majority from the wealthy minority. And no, this isn't about some quick hack or shady shortcut. This is about reprogramming how you see money, so you never play the game the same way again. Before we dive deep, if you're serious about breaking out of the 97%, if you want to stop running in circles and start building real wealth, hit that subscribe button right now. Because the strategies I'm about to reveal aren't things you'll find in your average finance tips video. They're the raw truth the wealthy use quietly, every single day. Alright, let's pull back the curtain. It all begins with a lie you were told as a child, a lie so deeply rooted that you might not even recognize it. You were taught that money comes from one thing: labor. Work hard, get paid. The problem? That's only half the truth. And half-truths are dangerous because they feel safe. When you grow up believing the only way to earn is to trade your time for money, you're already trapped. Because here's the math nobody in school tells you. Your time is limited. There are only so many hours in a day. Only so much energy in your body. If your income is chained to your hours, then your wealth will always be chained too. That's why most people can't break out. They built their entire financial lives on a flawed equation. Let me tell you about Kevin. Kevin was one of the hardest working people I ever met. Woke up at 5 a.m., worked 2 jobs, barely saw his kids. His logic was simple: if I put in the hours, eventually it will pay off. But here's what happened. By the time he hit 40, his back was shot. His health was declining, and the only thing paying off was his chiropractor. He wasn't lazy, he wasn't dumb, he was just stuck in the labor for money trap. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't that what everyone does? Yes, and that's exactly why 97% stay broke. They never escape the hamster wheel. The wealthy, they learn early that money isn't earned, it's created. And it's created not by more hours, but by more leverage. Leverage of ideas, leverage of capital, leverage of other people's time and skills. If that sounds abstract, let's make it painfully simple. Imagine you're paid $20 an hour. You work 8 hours, that's $160 a day. Now imagine you own a vending machine that earns $160 a day while you sleep. Same amount of money, but one path exhausts you, the other path frees you. The 97% cling to the first option, the 3% obsess over the second. Here's the kicker: switching from labor mindset to leverage mindset doesn't happen by accident. The system doesn't want you to think that way. Schools don't teach it. Your boss doesn't encourage it. Your parents, bless them, probably didn't know it themselves. Which means you have to break that mental chain yourself. And that's uncomfortable as hell. And if you're feeling resistance right now, if part of you is thinking, but my situation is different, or I can't take that kind of risk, remember, that's the exact same voice that keeps 97% of people broke forever. So ask yourself, do you want to keep listening to that voice? Or do you want to learn how the 3% replace that voice with one question: how can I make this happen without trading more of my life away? Because that one shift, the move from labor to leverage, is the first domino. And once it falls, the rest of the game starts to change fast. The second reason 97% of people stay broke is because they confuse looking rich with actually being rich. This is one of the most dangerous traps because it feels like progress. You get that nice car, that bigger TV, that brand new phone, and for a moment you feel like you've leveled up. But here's the brutal truth: those purchases might be locking you into financial slavery for years. Let's be real, how many people do you know who are drowning in car payments, credit card bills, and a mortgage that eats half their income, but they still post vacation photos like they're living the dream? Social media has turned financial insecurity into a performance art. And the worst part? The audience applauds while the actor quietly suffocates under debt. Let me tell you about Melissa. On Instagram, she was a star: designer clothes, luxury dinners, trips to Bali. In reality, she was maxing out credit cards to keep up the image. She thought she was building a brand, but all she was really building was a mountain of payments she couldn't sustain. Within 3 years, her dream lifestyle collapsed. She had to sell almost everything, move back in with her parents, and start over from scratch. The wealthy, they play a different game entirely. They understand that every dollar is either a soldier you send out to work for you or a prisoner you send to die in the trenches. The broke majority keep sending their dollars to die in a mall, in restaurants, on cars that lose value the moment they leave the lot. The wealthy, they send their dollars to fight battles that bring more dollars home. And here's the part that most people will never understand: true wealth is invisible. It's the apartment building you don't brag about on Instagram. It's the stock portfolio no one sees. It's the business you run quietly while other people flash their paychecks. Now, I know what you might be thinking about: I deserve to enjoy life. What's the point of money if I can't have nice things? Absolutely, you should enjoy life. But the order matters. The broke majority spend first and then try to invest with whatever crumbs are left. The wealthy invest first and let the profits buy their luxuries. That one reversal changes everything. Think about it: if you're making $5,000 a month and your rent, bills, and lifestyle add up to $4,900, you've trapped yourself. You have no margin, no breathing room, no soldiers left to send out. The 3% make sure their expenses stay so far below their income that they have an army of dollars to deploy every single month. The sad truth: most people are so desperate to look successful that they'll mortgage their future just to impress people who aren't even paying attention. So let me ask you, what matters more to you? Impressing strangers for 10 seconds, or securing freedom for the rest of your life? Because the moment you stop chasing the image and start building the foundation, you step off the hamster wheel and you step into the game the 3% have been playing all along. The third reason the 97% stay broke is because they've been programmed to think small. Not just in money, in ambition, in possibility, in what they believe is even available to them. And here's the thing: thinking small doesn't feel like thinking small when you've never seen what big actually looks like. From the time you were a kid, you were told things like, don't get your hopes up, be realistic. That's for other people, not for us. Maybe you heard it from parents who were just trying to protect you from disappointment. Maybe it came from teachers, bosses, or even friends who thought they were being practical. But what it really did was plant a ceiling in your mind, a limit so invisible you live under it without even realizing it. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine, David, grew up in a small town where the good job was working at the local factory. Everyone he knew either worked there or married someone who did. In that environment, pulling in $50,000 a year was considered making it. If you drove a decent car and owned a modest house, you were doing great. David had never met anyone who made six figures until one day he went on a business trip and met a man who made $500,000 a year, working fewer hours than David. That one encounter broke David's mental ceiling. It made him ask questions he'd never considered before. Why not me? Why can't I play at that level? What am I doing that's keeping me stuck where I am? Within 3 years, David had started his own business, moved to a bigger city, and quadrupled his income. But here's the key: none of that would have happened if he hadn't first seen what was possible. This is the curse of the 97%. They live in an echo chamber of limited thinking. Their reference points for success are tiny. They measure themselves against the people directly around them, not realizing those people are also measuring themselves against other limited thinkers. It's like being in a race where everyone is running in circles and thinking they're making progress. Meanwhile, the 3% surround themselves with people who stretch their perspective. They put themselves in rooms where they're the least successful person there. They intentionally seek out conversations that make them feel uncomfortable, not because they enjoy feeling inadequate, but because they know discomfort is the doorway to growth. Now, you might say, that's easy for them, they already have money. But here's the truth: it works the other way around. They have money because they did this first. You don't need wealth to expand your thinking, you need exposure. Exposure to ideas, to people, to opportunities that make your current goals look embarrassingly small. Think about your current circle. How many of your friends talk about investments, building assets, creating scalable income? How many talk about vacations, sales at the mall, or the latest Netflix series? Your environment will silently shape your mindset more than any book or course ever will. If you're constantly surrounded by people who treat $100 as a big deal, then you'll subconsciously adjust your thinking to that level. But spend a week with people who casually talk about $100,000 deals, and suddenly your brain starts rewiring itself. Your comfort zone expands. Your goals inflate. Your excuses shrink. And that's where the shift happens. Do 97% see a problem and ask, how can I afford this? Do 3% see the same problem and ask, how can I make this pay for itself? Do 97% look at a $10,000 opportunity and say, that's impossible? Do 3% say, what would I have to build, sell, or create to make $10,000 happen? It's not just mindset, it's mental software. If your brain is running the scarcity program, every idea will seem too big, too risky, too unrealistic. But when you install the abundance program, big ideas become puzzles instead of walls. And here's the most important part: this isn't about delusional optimism. This isn't about chanting affirmations in the mirror and pretending you're rich. It's about training your mind to reject small thinking, because small thinking will keep you small forever. So let me ask you, what's your ceiling right now? Is it a number, a lifestyle, a level of freedom? And is that ceiling real? Or was it quietly installed in your mind years ago by people who settled for less? Because here's the hard truth. The moment you stop accepting small goals as good enough is the moment you step onto the path that 3% walk every day. And the moment you start surrounding yourself with people who make your current life look like the starting line, you'll never go back to the 97% again. The fourth reason 97% of people stay broke is because they are quietly bled dry by what I call the silent wealth killers. These aren't obvious disasters like losing your job or going bankrupt. No, those are loud, dramatic events that everyone notices. The silent killers are subtle. They work slowly, invisibly, like termites eating away at the foundation of your financial house until one day, without warning, it collapses. And the worst part? Most people defend these killers. They'll even argue with you if you try to point them out. Let's start with the most common one: lifestyle creep. You know the pattern: your income goes up, your expenses go up right alongside it. You get a raise, and instead of using that extra money to build assets, you upgrade your car. You make a bonus, and instead of investing it, you upgrade your apartment. Every financial gain gets matched or exceeded by a lifestyle upgrade. This is why so many people can double their income in a few years and still feel broke. They've mistaken earning more for having more. And when you live like that, it doesn't matter how much you make, you'll never escape the paycheck-to-paycheck trap. I once knew a guy named Eric who went from making $40,000 a year to $120,000 in less than 5 years. Sounds like the dream, right? But he was more stressed at $120,000 than he was at $40,000. Why? Because he went from a $900 apartment to a $3,000 apartment, from a used Honda to a $70,000 SUV, from cooking at home to dining out 5 nights a week. His debts grew faster than his income. And every month, despite tripling his earnings, he was still living one missed paycheck away from panic. That's lifestyle creep, and it's a killer. Another silent killer: bad debt. Now, debt itself isn't evil. In fact, the wealthy use debt all the time, but they use it as a tool, not a trap. The broke majority, on the other hand, use debt for consumption. They borrow to buy things that immediately lose value. Credit card balances for clothes, gadgets, vacations, purchases that feel good for a week but haunt you for years. Let's do some simple math. If you carry a $10,000 balance on a credit card with 18% interest and only make minimum payments, you'll end up paying over $17,000 in interest alone. That's $27,000 total for something you probably don't even own anymore. That's not just expensive, that's financial insanity disguised as normal life. And then there's inflation, the wealth killer most people don't even consider until it's too late. Prices creep up slowly, so slowly you barely notice, but over time it eats away at your purchasing power. If you're not investing at a rate higher than inflation, you're not standing still, you're sliding backward. The 3% understand this deeply. They know that holding all your money in cash is like holding ice in the sun. It melts, whether you touch it or not. That's why they put their money into assets that grow faster than inflation. Real estate, businesses, investments with compounding returns. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth: these silent killers thrive in environments where people don't track their money, and the majority don't. Ask the average person how much they spent last month on eating out, subscriptions, random Amazon purchases. They'll shrug. They have no idea. And if you don't know where your money is going, you can't control it. I'll tell you exactly how the 3% defend themselves against these killers. They obsess over their financial flow. They know their numbers, so like a pilot knows their instruments. They know their income streams, their fixed expenses, their variable expenses, their debt balances, and their asset values. And because they know, they can act. They also set rules. Rules like, every raise goes straight to investments, or if it doesn't make me money or improve my life in a measurable way, I don't buy it. They automate transfers to savings and investment accounts so the money is gone before they can spend it. They make sure debt is either strategic or eliminated as fast as possible. Meanwhile, the 97% treat their finances like a mystery box. Money comes in, money goes out, and they hope there's something left over. That's not a plan, that's a slow bleed. And here's something most people never realize: wealth killers don't just take your money, they take your options. Every unnecessary payment, every high-interest debt, every inflated expense you commit to, it chains you tighter to the grind. You can't take a risk, start a business, or seize an opportunity because your lifestyle demands every dollar you make just to keep running. So I want you to ask yourself right now, what's quietly eating away at your wealth? Is it the car you bought to impress your neighbors? The apartment you rented because it had a view you barely notice anymore? The credit card debt that feels too big to even look at? If you're serious about joining the 3%, the first battle isn't about making more, it's about stopping the leaks. Because the moment you plug those leaks, every extra dollar you earn becomes a soldier you can send into battle for your freedom instead of a casualty in the silent war that keeps the 97% trapped. And remember, these killers are silent because they hide in habits you've accepted as normal. Break those habits, and you'll start hearing something new. The sound of money staying in your life instead of vanishing from it. The fifth reason 97% of people stay broke has nothing to do with how much money they make, and everything to do with how they see themselves. It's the identity trap. You can learn all the tactics in the world: budgeting, investing, starting businesses, but if your self-image is still wired for scarcity, you will sabotage yourself every single time you start making progress, and you won't even realize you're doing it. See, your brain has a thermostat for wealth, just like a thermostat controls the temperature in a room. If the thermostat is set to broke, and you suddenly start earning more money, your subconscious will find ways to bring you right back down to that old setting. You'll overspend. You'll make accidental mistakes. You'll miss opportunities. It's not bad luck, it's your brain working overtime to keep you at the identity level it believes is normal for you. Here's the scary part: most people never change that setting. They spend their whole lives running the same financial identity they learned from their family, their neighborhood, their early experiences with money. If you grew up hearing "we can't afford that," "money doesn't grow on trees," "rich people are greedy," or "that's just not for people like us," then those phrases didn't just bounce off you, they got installed. They became part of the operating system your brain uses to make decisions. Let me give you an example. I knew a guy named Carlos who grew up poor. He worked his way up, started his own business, and within a few years, he was making more than he ever dreamed possible: $250,000 a year. But within 3 years, he was broke again. Why? Because deep down, Carlos didn't see himself as someone who could keep wealth. He felt out of place with money in his hands. So, without realizing it, he found ways to get rid of it: lavish gifts, bad investments, unnecessary risks. Subconsciously, he was correcting his reality back to the one his identity recognized. This is why lottery winners so often go bankrupt. They didn't change their identity, just their bank account. And the bank account always, eventually, matches the identity. The wealthy understand this in a way most people don't. They work on their mindset and self-image before the money comes, and they keep working on it afterward. They make sure their inner thermostat is set to abundance, growth, and wealth is normal. That way, when the money arrives, they don't freak out, self-sabotage, or give it away to bad decisions. Now, here's the tricky part: changing your financial identity isn't as simple as saying, I'm rich now. Your subconscious doesn't respond to empty declarations, it responds to repeated experiences. It has to see you acting like the wealthy version of yourself, over and over, until it accepts that as your new normal. This is why the 3% put themselves in environments that normalize wealth. They spend time with people for whom talking about million-dollar deals is casual. They visit places that inspire them. They read stories of people who came from nothing and built fortunes not for entertainment, but to train their brain to believe this is possible for me. They also act as if, but strategically. Acting as if doesn't mean buying expensive things you can't afford. It means making decisions from the mindset of someone who values long-term growth over short-term comfort. It means asking, would my wealthy self do this? Before spending, investing, or even saying yes to an opportunity. Here's a practical way to start changing your identity. 1. Audit your money story. Write down every belief about money you absorbed growing up. Be brutally honest. 2. Challenge each belief. If you wrote money is hard to make, find examples of people who disproved that. If you wrote rich people are greedy, find examples wealthy people who use their resources to do massive good. 3. Redefine your normal. Surround yourself with wealth cues books, videos, conversations, mentors that make prosperity feel familiar, not foreign. Because here's the thing, your brain likes familiarity. If wealth feels alien, you'll push it away. If wealth feels like home, you'll keep it, grow it, and protect it. Think about this. If tomorrow you woke up in a 10-bedroom mansion with a Ferrari in the driveway, would you feel comfortable? Or like an imposter? That feeling is your identity talking. And if you don't fix that, no amount of strategy will save you from sliding back to where you started. The 97% never question their identity. They just accept it as who they are. The 3% treat identity as a skill they can upgrade. And they know that until they upgrade it, no financial tactic will stick. So if you're serious about escaping the 97%, you can't just work harder, spend smarter, or invest better. You have to become the kind of person who feels at home with wealth. Because until your mind believes you belong in the 3%, you'll always find a way to get back to the 97%. The 6th reason 97% of people stay broke is because they rely on linear growth, while the 3% live in exponential growth. This is the part that stings the most because linear growth feels safe, predictable, comfortable. But it's also painfully slow. And in a world where costs rise, opportunities pass, and time keeps ticking, slow is the same as stuck. Let's break this down. Most people are trapped in a trade time for money model. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour. You work a week, you get paid for a week. It's a one-to-one exchange. That's linear growth. Even if you get a raise every year, you're still climbing a straight, narrow staircase one step at a time. The 3% don't climb stairs, they build elevators. They understand that the real game is to create systems that make money without directly requiring their presence or labor. Once you understand this, your entire view of money changes. Here's the mental shift. Wealth grows fastest when your money works harder than you do. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, yeah, passive income, I've heard this before. Understand this isn't about some fantasy of sipping cocktails on a beach while money magically appears in your account. It's about building assets that keep producing long after you've done the work once. Let me tell you about Amy. Amy started as a freelance graphic designer. She worked hard, but she hit a wall. There were only so many hours in a day she could sell. Then one day, she took the designs her clients had already paid for, packaged them as downloadable templates, and started selling them online. Within a year, the templates were bringing in more than her freelance work without her needing to design a single new thing unless she wanted to. That's exponential growth. The 97% don't think like this. They wait for someone else, a boss, a company, the economy to give them permission to earn more. The 3% give themselves permission by building things that scale. Let's get practical. Exponential growth comes from leverage, and there are only 4 kinds of leverage. 1. Money leverage. Using capital to generate more capital investments, real estate, lending. 2. People leverage, hiring others so your income isn't limited by your personal output. 3. Product leverage, creating something once and selling it infinitely, courses, books, software, intellectual property. 4. Media leverage, creating content that attracts attention and opportunities on after it's published. The broke majority use almost none of these. The wealthy use all of them, often at the same time. And here's the kicker: exponential growth is not just about income, It's about time. The moment your money or systems are earning while you're sleeping, your wealth curve bends upward. And when it bends upward, even small efforts compound into massive results over time. Let's compare to people. Person A works a job making $80,000 a year. Person B works a job making $60,000 a year, but also owns a small e-commerce store making $1,000 a month. After 5 years, Person A has made more in salary, but Person B's store has grown to $5,000 a month, giving them $60,000 a year in extra income. At year 10, Person B's business is making more than their salary, and Person is still waiting for that next promotion. This is why the 3% never settle for a single source of income. They know that even the highest salary is fragile. One layoff, one industry change, and it's gone. Multiple scalable streams of income aren't a luxury, they're a survival plan. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: if you're not building leverage, you're losing ground. Inflation is climbing, technology is replacing jobs, and competition is global. The game is getting faster, and linear growth is too slow to keep up. The good news? Building exponential growth isn't about starting huge. It's about starting now. You could invest $200 a month into an index fund that compounds over decades. You could take something you know how to do and package it as a product. You could start building an audience that one day becomes a customer base. You could hire one assistant to free up 10 hours a week so you can work on higher value projects. Every one of those moves is a step into exponential territory. And here's the part that separates the doers from the dreamers: the 97% wait until conditions are perfect. The 3% start where they are, with what they have, and let the compounding do the heavy lifting. Ask yourself right now, today, how much of your income is tied directly to the hours you work? And what would your life look like if even 20% of it came from systems or assets you control? Because here's the brutal truth: until you have money making money, you are playing a losing game. And every day you wait to start, the gap between you and the 3% widens. The sooner you stop climbing stairs and start building elevators, the sooner you'll find yourself in a place where money works harder than you ever could. That's when the game changes. That's when the acceleration begins. And that's when you stop waiting for raises and start giving yourself pay increases on your own terms. Here's the truth that almost nobody wants to face. Most people don't lose because they lack knowledge. In today's world, you can Google every strategy the wealthy use. You can learn, for free, how to invest, how to build a business, how to develop multiple income streams. Information isn't the bottleneck. The bottleneck is that even when people have the map, they never take the trip. They read the book, but don't apply the chapter. They watch the video, but never take the first step. They attend the seminar, but go home unchanged. Why? Because there's an invisible barrier between where you are and where you could be. A psychological ceiling that 97% of people never break through. You might think this ceiling is about your background, your degree, your location, or your current bank balance. It's not. Those are external circumstances, and while they can make the game harder, they are not the game breaker. The real ceiling is in your mind. It's the set of invisible beliefs that quietly dictate how far you allow yourself to go before you self-sabotage. And unless you learn how to smash it, every time you start climbing, you'll find a way to pull yourself back down, without even realizing it. The 3 layers of the psychological ceiling. 1. The fear of failure. For the 97%, the pain of possibly losing is greater than the pleasure of potentially winning. This is why they stay in the same job for decades, even when it's killing their spirit. This is why they talk themselves out of starting the business, making the investment, or pitching the idea. The 3% think differently. They know failure isn't fatal, it's feedback. They lose fast, they learn faster, and they keep moving. For them, failure is a tuition fee for the school of wealth. 2. The fear of success. It sounds ridiculous at first, but it's real. Success means responsibility. It means you can't hide anymore. It demands new decisions, higher standards, and the courage to let go of old comfort zones. Many people subconsciously sabotage their own progress because they're afraid that success will force them into a life they can't handle. The 3% know that success will change them, and that's exactly the point. They embrace the transformation, even if it's uncomfortable, because the alternative is to stay stuck. 3. The identity trap. This is the quietest killer of them all. It's when your self-image puts a hard limit on what's normal for you. If you've always seen yourself someone who earns $40,000 a year, Your brain will quietly reject opportunities that could take you to $100,000 or $1 million. You'll talk yourself out of it, not because it's impossible, but because it's incompatible with who you believe you are. The wealthy operate from a different identity. They decide who they want to be first, and then they align their actions with that vision. Think about it. If your identity is "I'm a runner," you don't have to force yourself to run. It's just what you do. If your identity is "I'm an investor," you don't have to constantly push yourself to look for opportunities. You naturally see them everywhere. So here's the uncomfortable truth. If you want to join the 3%, you must upgrade your identity before your reality changes. Because reality will never permanently exceed your self-image. Breaking the ceiling, the 3% know that smashing the psychological ceiling isn't a one-time act, it's a lifestyle. Every time they level up, a new ceiling appears. Every new level of income, freedom, and influence requires breaking through another set of beliefs. And here's the raw truth most won't tell you. The ceiling never goes away. You just get better at breaking it. The poor wait for the fear to disappear before they act. The rich act despite the fear. And that action is what makes the fear shrink. If you want to think like the 3%, you have to start doing 3 things immediately. 1. Run toward the discomfort. When something scares you, don't avoid it. Examine it. Ask yourself, is this fear protecting me or keeping me broke? 2. Audit your identity daily. Look at your habits, your words, your surroundings. Do they reflect the future you want or the past you've been stuck in? 3. Play a bigger game. Stop setting goals that keep you safe. Set ones that make you sweat. Here's the paradox. The 97% are waiting to feel ready before they start. But readiness is a myth. The 3% start before they're ready. And that's why they become ready. Now, if you've been watching this far, there's a reason. Something inside you is tired of hitting that ceiling. Tired of the invisible walls. Tired of knowing more than you're doing. You don't break the ceiling by learning one more trick or watching one more video. You break it by deciding, right now, that you're done living at 97%, and then proving it every single day until your identity and your bank account both reflect the 3% mindset you've chosen. So here's my question for you. Are you going to keep living under that ceiling? Or are you going to smash it right now? Because the truth is, this video ends here. Your excuses? They end here too. If you're serious, the next step is simple. Click on the next video I prepared for you. It's not random. It's the exact piece you need to go from thinking like the 3% to acting like them. Go. Now, watch it.